championship run. We're going to cover whether we think the Nuggets are contenders or pretenders. And finally, we're going to dive into where the Broncos sit following free agency, moving into the draft, and talk about some of our guys. So thank you for joining us. Up next is the Mile High Sports Symposium, so stay tuned.
Stay with us.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mile High Sports Symposium. I am one of your hosts, JT Matthews at JTMatthews01 on X, and I'm here with the Dr. Nicholas Manning at DR_and Manning on X as well. Doc, happy Wednesday. We're back at it. How are you? I'm really purple right now, so I'm gonna change my background real quick for something.
While you were trying to de-grimace or Barney. I don't know if you're watching and you know what I'm talking about. We are tight. I'm good, man. I'm good outside of the snow. So it's like first baseball practice today, first flag football practice of the spring. Won't happen because of Colorado weather, which it is what it is. Snowed last night. It'll be warm again this weekend. So looking forward to going out there and, structuring and forming America's youth. The next wave. I feel like I'm doing my part. Outside of that, things aren't too bad. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Enjoying being off today. I didn't have to drive in the little bit of snow that we had this morning, so that was good. Just taking it easy. Got to take a kid to a doctor's appointment after this, so I got a hard cutoff, but can't complain for your typical Wednesday.
At least you're taking the kid to the doctor. You're not the one that needs to go to the doctor,
Yeah, I already got that out of the way. 2 months, last month, something like that. So that's good. I'm good for a while on that. I don't got to go back for a minute. But yeah, when you have a million kids, there's always an appointment. So here we go. Exciting stuff.
Exactly.
Well, since I do have a hard cutoff, let's just jump into some topics. You ready?
Yes. And before we get in too far, though, happy birthday, Marvin Mims. Normally, I wouldn't do birthday shout outs because I'm not 9, but it was like across my timeline on Twitter. And so just came to me.
There you go. Happy birthday.
Because that shout out, you got to come on the pod now. So
that's just how the rules are. We don't.
I don't write them. Don't write them. Don't hate the players.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's talk Avs a little bit. To kick us off, Avs are playing the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight, I believe, in Toronto. A potential, I guess it would have a Stanley Cup Finals matchup, but a playoff type matchup coming up tonight after a big win against the Dallas Stars in overtime. Just another chance for the Avs to kind of flex their muscles and take on a playoff opponent. Want to talk about that game against the Stars before we kind of get into tonight's expectations, but Avs played the Stars 2 nights ago. No, was it Sunday night? Sunday day? Yeah. Sunday day. It was Sunday. And they came away with, like I said, with a goal, game-winning goal by Kilmar in overtime. They gained a point. They were 3 points behind. They were 2 points behind the Stars, or at least at that point, we were 2 points behind the Stars in the standings. A real battle for the 2 and 3 seed in the West, or the Central. I can never remember what they call them now. Central, not Pacific. And just kind of continuing some momentum. It was Nathan McKinnon's 1,000 points with the Colorado Avalanche, but career 1,000 points. He hit that a few games prior, but it was his first home game, so he had a nice little ceremony with his family, and Landeskog came out, and Andrew Cogliano, who stayed with the team. Yeah, good old Cogs. was part of that Stanley Cup championship team and came out and presented him with all accolades. Just want to give Nate his flowers and talk about 1,000 points with the Colorado Avalanche. You know, we've had a number of players over that have stuck their whole careers with Colorado. I think you see that maybe more frequently in hockey, but you know, the Joe Sackics of the world are few and far between in most other sports. So far, Nate's been with the Colorado Avalanche from the beginning. We just saw Mikko Rantanen, who unfortunately is not going to have the same trajectory career-wise, but just a great celebration of him. Great season so far. Last I checked, he was still leading in points for the NHL as the lead, the front runner for MVP this year, and just having a spectacular season. I'll just open the floor to you to heap your praise on Nate right now.
Yeah, so one, how cool is it? You get Mikko back in town against probably, you know, in this rendition of the Avalanche, you know, outside of Vegas is probably like your second biggest rival, right? I would think.
Yeah.
You know, especially in the interdivision, right? So it's like we can't stand St. Louis, can't stand Minnesota, can't stand Dallas. And so, you know, and all the Mikko drama, Mikko landing there is just kind of a nice culmination on national TV. Winning the way they did. Hopefully it echoes, you know, how important, you know, Nate is to the Avalanche and in my opinion to hockey, because he is. And even though the culture in the NHL is a little bit subdued, you know, at least externally, you know, a lot of guys have egos. Let's not pretend that just because they don't do a ton of media, you know, or show me things like some other sports doesn't mean that, you know, some of them aren't just pricks, you know, or like guys that, you know, have certain opinions about themselves and all that kind of stuff. Matt Duchesne. And so it's cool, especially when, you know, you look back and this team, to be able to draft a Cale Makar that season, they were terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, like, early 2000, 2001 Denver Nuggets bad. Like that.
Right.
And to see this kid be able to not only grow into being a leader on the ice and really kind of fulfilling his, you know, his draft destiny. Rarely do you get guys that are number one overall in any sport that supersede how good you think that they were going to be. And so he is still first. He leads Leon Draisaitl by a couple of points. But overall tremendous. I think, you know, hopefully he gets the trophy, the Hart Trophy again. But I know that Nate would trade another cup for, or even a shot at the cup. Like if he could guarantee that they'd be in the Western Conference Finals and has a shot, you know, nothing's written, or he gets the Hart Trophy. I think Mac, which makes me like him even more. The guy's about winning, whatever it takes. And I'm, again, fortunate. It's kind of the Nikola Jokic talk. We're fortunate that we get the game's best player, or even if you were to say arguably, you know, top 3 in the world, top 4 if you want to add Cale, who is also ridiculously special. It's tremendous. And the longevity, you know, I think he's maybe landed on the IL once in recent memory. And so the guy that plays attacking, like he's just, it defies kind of logic. He plays so hard and so fast that you'd think that he'd have more wear and tear. And it goes to show his commitment to keeping himself healthy and then, you know, being on that list of famous Avalanche of yesteryear. You know, he's right up there. He's not Joe, but I would, you know, he's in there with Peter and Hayduk and that's, you know, I'm old enough and fortunate enough to watch them all play. And
sure.
You know, Nathan he's a different player than like Peter is, and still, you know, I think Nate has had to do more than
Sure.
than I think anyone outside of Joe had to do to kind of carry the legacy of and kind of change the narrative from Quebec to the Avalanche. And so, one of the best to ever do it in Colorado Avalanche history, and I even say like Denver sports history. I mean, we haven't had a lot of sports MVPs, and he's definitely that dude.
Well, and I mean, I don't know the last time or ever the Avs have had a back-to-back trophy winner.
No, before him, it was just Joe, and I think Peter got one, right?
I don't remember.
Let me check. I'm going to check where we're going. Anyway, continue.
But yeah, I mean, you start having conversations about his legacy within the organization, like you said, and he's starting to surpass some of those beloved names if he hasn't already, and it's a testament to how hard he's worked.
Back-to-backers, we had Sakic in 01, Peter in 03.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it. So he's already matching those as far as accolades go. Those two of probably the top three, at least top five Avs of all time, and has the ability this season to pass them both up as far as individual awards and accolades go. Now, a lot of how you're remembered is based on your overall success in championships, your ability to win the cup. They're certainly in the conversation now, and if he continues on this trajectory and they have more competitive years where they're able to build some rosters around him and Kale, and just kind of give themselves the best opportunities to win, that conversation could easily flip to maybe Nate is the greatest Av of all time. And I think with his mentality and the way that he comes to work and is professional, and he's got that dog in him for sure. I call him Nate Dog for no reason. And he's just a special guy to be able to watch, and it's been a lot of fun to be able to just kind of witness his growth from minors to the terrible few seasons that we had at the beginning of his career to championships and hopefully additional championships on the horizon. It's been a lot of fun. Jumping back to the Dallas game, again, high pressure, high octane game, a game against Mikko Rantanen with his new club in Dallas. It was a little bittersweet. I don't know how much of that game you caught. It was, they gave Rantanen, of course, a clip package and a thank you on the ice. The fans gave him a pretty good response. No intense booing or anything like that. Which, kind of on the terms of the
I would have been shocked if there's booing now. Maybe as things continue to develop, maybe they're like, playoffs or next year or something, the fans, we gave you your flowers. Like, we love you. Now you're a star and we're going to treat you.
Now you're the rival. So,
yeah.
But it was nice. It was a nice gesture, as you would expect them to give to someone who was with their club for 10 years. But other exciting things going on around the Avs. Gabriel Landeskog yesterday. This is going to be trying out with this team on the upcoming road trip.
Wow.
What do you make of that? Just kind of quick hit on that. What do you make of him traveling with the team? Do you think that is a sign of things to come? Do you think that they may be up for him to potentially put in the playoffs, or do you think it's more of a wishful thinking maybe?
No, I think he's practicing, and so he hasn't had contact yet. But this isn't skate arounds. I don't think you bring him with a desire of having him, ramp up to the risk, right? I mean, there's no way that you do that if your intent isn't to give yourself the option to have him come off IL for the playoffs. Now, the hard part is if Gabe comes off the IL during the regular season, at any point, immediately his cap hit hits. So and not just the NHL, but if he were to go suit up for the Eagles. The cap hit still hits, and so you can't round about it to have him go get some some extended spring training. That's what baseball players do. They call it extended before they hit and all that good stuff. So I think that there is a hope, which is a little interesting, and I think I don't know, maybe if it's Gabe feels pressure to, he's kind of heard our call of like, guys, we got to figure it out. Like you can't keep eating up a large part of your cap for a guy that's not close to playing year in and year out. And that, this would be next year would be going on to 4 years, the 4th year, close to, like you just can't do that. Right. Yeah. And so I hope that's not that. Then the question is like, is that good to have a guy that's been out since the cup run? So what, 01, 02, right? So 3 years since he's played hockey. And right now this was the first time that he has like had ramp up skating, let alone practice, contact, introduction to, getting smashed by a 6'2", 200-pound defenseman. So I do think it's a good sign for Gabe in the fact that he might be a hockey player again, and I think for anyone that's played a sport, until you stop playing, you identify as an athlete. That's like part of your personal identification, right? Your ethnicity, right? All that stuff. Guys like that, like they are an athlete. They are and so that's a part of his identity that he doesn't have to let go yet. So personally, I feel great. I also think personally it helps, or professionally for the Avs, it helps guide what the heck the plan's going to be. My worry though is just tempered expectations. Really, if he were to come back, I think the hope is he gives you good 4th line winger minutes. And if he can play a role like that, it raises all boats. And it gives us anything more than that, great. If we think that he's going to come in and he's going to jump in on that 1st line, 2nd line, even 3rd line, where he's going to give you 20 minutes of hockey, especially as soon as the playoffs start, that's just an extra level of intensity. I think we're setting ourselves up for fail. I also think he would be a liability. I know he's played a ton of hockey. Like he's played more hockey than I've even thought about in his life. Sure. And so I wouldn't be shocked if he comes in like Cale Makar did rookie season, right? Like just jumps into the playoffs after playing for Boston. But Cale was playing hockey. And so it's a little different in like coming up from college and playing, which that was unheard of, going from we think your leg will fall off to playing and there's no in between really. I trust, he's going to make decisions best for him, the team, all that stuff. It's a very expensive risk to take. So if they take it, this got to feel good, like medically, some way, shape, or form. I just hope emotionally, like we don't expect him to be. The last time we saw him was holding up a cup and being a key contributor to one of the best teams to really ever kind of go through the Stanley Cup. I mean, that was a pretty dominant group. That's not that. I think we just have to stay reasonable about what's to hope. But this is by far the best sign that he is going to play hockey again that we've seen since the Cup run, and that at least is like that's awesome. I wouldn't want that to be his story. Essentially, he sold his soul and his his career to win that Cup. I know I'm grateful for that. He'll always be there's not many people that are younger than me that I hold and revere, and like that kind of leadership is pretty outstanding. Yeah. So
there's a reason.
There's all that. I don't know. Would you have him? I'm gonna ask you, especially seeing like this lineup right now. So like, let's go in with the assumption that we're all healthy.
Sure.
Everyone that's on the, that we have penciled in the depth chart gets to the postseason. Is that you haven't seen him play a game? If he's skating, it's good practices, all that kind of stuff. Is this a team right now who CBS has them number 1 in the power rankings? Like they have the best record in the NHL since February 1st. things are going real well. Do you mess with that? Is Gabe so above kind of the at least the game or in the eyes of even the front office here of like, nope, that's Gabe Landeskog, and if he's ready to go, he's in and he's playing, and we got to figure it out. Do you potentially disrupt the cohesion and the really like tremendous hockey, Stanley Cup winning potential hockey that this team's playing for a very unknown, at least initially for sure, and Gabe Landeskog coming back?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because you don't really want to mess with the team chemistry. However, this team is pretty new and people are still learning to play together. And I think that time that they get here is valuable. However, I mean, like you said, you his leadership, and he's been the captain through this whole injury. At any time, they could have said, "You're not playing. Let's make Nate the captain. He's on the ice. He's playing game after game. Let's slap the C on him. We'll give you the A. You can still stay as one of the captains, but not the guy." And I think the fact that he's your captain and he says he's ready to go, and he passes all the doctor exam physicals and all the testing that it requires it to get him back up there, then you plug him in there, and someone else has to sit, and that sucks. What I would hope they would do maybe is just what they're gonna do, or what they have been doing with our guy Eric Johnson, where he may not play every game. He may be your seventh defenseman, but he's gonna get in the rotation. And he's gonna get minutes with whatever line they're going to put him on. Whether that means they put him on the fourth line and move someone up from the fourth line to the third, or that person just goes down to the bench, or if they have someone on the third line and everyone kind of shifts, and just to kind of give them that opportunity to say like, hey, our first two lines are set. I don't think we're moving off of Lehkonen and Netjes at the first line. I don't think you're McKinnon. Sorry, it's McKinney for some reason. And then I don't think you're really moving off of Brock Nelson, Nichushkin, and Drouin on that second line. So it's really going to be about who kind of gets bumped out of that bump three, and really just for those wingers. So maybe Parker Kelly gets sat down a little bit. Maybe Logan O'Connor gets sat down a little bit, just depending on who's playing well. But I think you got to slot him in there. I think you owe him that. You've been through this whole development and the surgeries and the treatments and all of this. And if his last hurrah, so to speak, or his last chance to kind of get out there and show whether he can or can't do it, I think you give it to him, because he is who he is. So if he goes out and he's a detriment and they score when he's out there, 3 times in the first playoff game, and it's an abject failure, probably don't go back to it quite as quickly. Not to say that you wouldn't keep him in there or give him some rotational minutes, but I think you have to kind of readjust and just see what he can give you. Especially you're talking about play shape is different than practice shape, and kind of building up to that professional level of athleticism and endurance. So it's going to take him time. It's going to be quick. He's going to be out there. He's probably not going to do any special teams at first. He's going to fill his role. He's going to do it kind of at the most basic baseline, and then you got to kind of judge it from there. But it's a great story. I think that you have to be careful about the potential highs and lows of. Yeah. They brought Gabe back. This is a huge shot in the arm as far as our confidence and moving into the playoffs. And then if a game later he says, I can't do this, then you kind of worry about the emotional toll it might take on the team at that point too. So it's not to say there aren't any risks, but I think because he is who he is, you've slapped that C on his chest, you've left it there. When he's ready to go and he passes all the physicals and medicals and whatnot, then you got to give him the shot.
Yep. Yeah, because it's not a one and done scenario, right? It's you got to lose 4 times before you're bounced, and in my opinion. It's not like basketball where it's 1 of 5. And he's not a defenseman. I worry if he were playing it, because I think if you're not on your game, especially on that in the back end, I think it can hurt you. I think there's more opportunities for it to be hurtful than there is for help, right? Like, but being a forward, most of your world is going to hopefully be playing in the neutral zone in the offensive end where you can't lose anything. You might not score, but if you have a bad pass in front of their net, don't harm, no foul kind of thing. I have a little bit of that, but the potential lift, right? If he comes in and gives you average play in minutes, right? Third line worthy. One, it raises all boats. And, it's kind of a nice feel good for the team. Like, holy shit, we got our captain back with all of these guys. Like, let's go. And it's worked well for Vegas. Vegas has used the old IL trip. Guys don't play almost all the season, and then they get healthy enough and they bring them in for the Stanley Cup playoffs, and it's worked in their cup winning season. It worked in their almost cup season. So it's not 3 years off, but in the end, rust is rust, and so I say go for it, man. I say, you know what, if he's ready to play, Gabe is a consummate professional. So I don't think he would come in expecting or demanding that, like, I'm always a line 1 guy or line 2. Like, I think he would come in and just whatever the team needs. And especially because it's in the playoffs, I think ego is even more out the window for guys. Like, it's about the game right now and winning. I think there's a lot of positives from it. So it was great, because if not, the story was kind of getting more sad. The fact that he documented it, I'm super excited for the documentary to get rolling out, and then he executively produced another one. So, Gabe's been pretty busy, and if you're documenting your recovery, I would assume that it was going well or improving. Like, you're not gonna. It's like, oh, and then I never made it back. You're like, that was a terrible watch. Like, spend 8 episodes to find out you never played hockey again. That's awful. Let's not do that. So anyway, long-winded. I think that they're a damn good team. I think if they're healthy, I feel really good about their chance to raise a cup. I think if Gabe comes in and gives adequate minutes, 10 minutes, if he were to average 10 minutes of even hockey through the playoffs, just that boost, the emotional boost on top of how deep and talented this team is right now with the quality goaltending they're getting. I would take PTO request for the parade day, like, right now. I'm banking on it. You know what? We're going to be in downtown. We made the mistake of not going last year, and I regret it, or last time, and I regret it, and it won't happen again. It won't happen again. So
for sure. I'm with you. Let's transfer over to the Nuggets. Nuggets have had a weird week. What's up, Jack? Had an interesting win.
Before we move on, just really quick.
Okay. Yeah.
The Avalanche, I think 12 games left, 13 games left, something in the ballpark. Contender, pretender. Is this a team that legitimately, as constructed, Stanley Cup worthy?
Yeah, I think they're contender. I think, especially if you end up passing up Dallas in the rankings. I don't know that that's going to happen, but, you're just showing that you've got that extra bit of juice. I think they're a contender for sure. They're not going to catch Winnipeg for the top of the division, but, from going from kind of this bubble, like, I don't know what this team is, to kind of a solidly in the 3 seed and then pushing for the 2nd seed, I think there's no question that they got better.
Yeah. It was one that we talked about last time, that Dallas, if they got the Dallas matchup in the first round, that probably maybe is their toughest matchup. And I would kind of pencil them in as the Western Conference representative if they got through. after watching that game, and mind you, that like it went to overtime, really because the team went to sleep. Like they dominated that game. That game was they dominated start to finish, and then they went to sleep for about 2 minutes. It gets tied up. It's like, oh crap, and then Kale just does what Kale does. So watching that and kind of the domination that they displayed through that, I really, really, really feel good about this team's chances, barring something, knock on wood, which won't happen. So super stoked. Now let's transition to our other ball arena tenants.
Yeah, for sure. I know what you're going for.
Yeah.
Sometimes the words are hard to find. You're just kind of searching for them when you got the idea, but the words are hard.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Nuggets had kind of an odd week as far as their play went. They played the Lakers last Friday, and winning, but that was against a Luka and LeBron less team. A few other guys were out as well. So, but barely squeaked that one out. Not really a great morale win. You win by 5 points against a team with Austin Reeves, who scored like 42 points, which is pretty wild. Then you go ahead and drop the next game against the Wizards by 3. And then you play a game on Monday without Jokic and Jamal. And you get against the Golden State Warriors, who are hot, really hot, and you beat them by 9. And it's just kind of been a weird week plus for the Nuggets. You come off a Thunder win a couple of Mondays ago. Then you lose a pretty ugly game to the Timberwolves. You barely beat a Lakers squad that has anyone on it. You lose to Washington, then you beat a hot Warriors team. I don't really know what to make of this stretch. Yeah. It is a little bit concerning, I think, kind of going into the playoffs when you're losing games to the Wizards. You're struggling against undermanned teams. Do you think that there's any cause for concern for their play over the last week or so?
Yes. However, still I'm just manifesting it with my NBA title shirt. So yeah. I mean, it's one. The Minnesota has been a tough matchup for them the last 3 years, and probably will remain that. Do I think that the Nuggets can beat them in a 7-game series? I do. But that by far right now is the matchup that I don't like the most. I feel, I think LA would be tough with with a healthy LeBron and Luka. But the Nuggets have played Luka pretty well his entire career, and LeBron in LA has struggled against Nuggets. I don't think that changes. And the Nuggets have split with OKC, and so this season 2-2, and so I feel okay about that. Really, the Minnesota matchup is one that worries me. I don't know what to make of a game without Jamal, without Jokic, and without Christian Brown, who's been probably their second most consistent player this season.
Yeah.
And the Nuggets really control that game from beginning to end. Hunter Tyson looks like an NBA player. Zeke Naji is finally getting some PT and has looked like an NBA player. Peyton Watson looks like he's stepping it up, especially getting more minutes. What I think that we learned is that maybe this team internally relies on Jokic too much. And even just when he's on the floor, they don't play with the same tenacity and confidence of being an NBA player. Like, you have to be a cocky mofo to be a professional athlete, to be able to carry that, like, I got you, I'm going to get by you, I'm going to score, all that stuff. And I think when Nikola's on the floor, even though he defers a lot, and his game is to really help and support his teammates getting in right position to get easy buckets, etc. They play down to it sometimes, especially when he's not on the floor then. And so hopefully this was look what you can do when you play hard and you play with intention and you focus from the beginning tip. We beat a team that was, I think they were like on an 8-game winning streak, something. I mean, Golden State's playing really good basketball with Jimmy Butler. I mean, they played all their dogs, and the Nuggets really took advantage of a lot of those, a lot of their strengths. Draymond had a rough game. They ran Steph off of his spot quite a bit, made it more uncomfortable for him. Played really physical against Jimmy, and he got frustrated a bit. So it makes me more frustrated about the disconnect between Mike Malone and Calvin Booth, and the fact that they can't play nice in the sandbox, and Malone doesn't want to play the guys that Calvin tells him he has to play, and Calvin doesn't go get the guys that Mike wants. And we all have those like pissing contests or people that we don't like in the office. So I'm not going to pretend like I am better than those guys, even though I am, at least in this context. The fact that we waste another year of Jokic's window because we couldn't fathom letting Zeke get some more time in the rotation. Hunter Tyson didn't get time or opportunities. Jalen Pickett, who he plays some gritty, he can give you 6 to 8 gritty minutes in a playoff game, and that kind of stuff, and the game to game focus of coaching and winning that versus, you're telling everyone that we understand that the playoffs is where it's at. You got to make sure we're right by the playoffs, but then you don't do what's in your best interest to build up the guys that you need to perform in the playoffs so that you can win a championship. And so that part it's frustrating because we all see it. And if we all see it, I know that they have to see it. And if they see it and still to this point haven't done anything about it, that part pisses me off a little bit. Jokic will not be this good forever. And he cannot play, forever. He won't want to play forever. And, every year lost is one we can't make up. You're not going to get another Jokic again. And so, that part is what really kind of caught my eye with how uneven things were. I mean, you barely beat a shorthanded Laker team that's essentially giving you that game. And, you need a last minute bucket. I mean, mind you, way to step up. Jamal hit a clutch bucket to close that game out. In the end, they are NBA players, and maybe it's the same as kind of the Nuggets, and their role players stepping up at Golden State, but to then come back and lay a dud against Washington after getting your teeth kicked in against Minnesota because you were tired, because you used all your emotion against OKC. Yeah. For F's sakes, I believe in self-care. I believe in you have to do things to make yourself resilient. So when hard happens, you're better at handling hard. Not, we don't know how to do hard. We used all of our emotional energy against OKC, and so we just didn't have enough tonight. That might be the reason. That won't suffice for me in the playoffs. We had a really tough and emotionally charged game 4, and so we came out flat in game 5. What? What? Yeah. You could be emotionally tired and still focus for 48 minutes. And as a profession, for a highly trained and paid, asset, I don't want to hear that. That can't be, if you have it, you have some mentally fragile players. And I think that's what I'm learning, that there's some fragility in the front office, on our coaching staff a little bit, and within the team. And I don't mean guys have been beaten down these are NBA champions who got rewarded with extensions. No one's sitting out there hanging out to dry. It's everyone's got their bag. And so, if in the middle of the season, you're emotionally wore out from trying hard in a game, it's just not a good look. So hopefully this was the igniter. You know what? Hey, MPJ, if you're not going to guts it out, Hunter Tyson will go out there, play good D, can hit a 3, and, we'll max out effort and, not leave guys hanging. Malone has to do that thing now. Hey, Jamal, if you're rusty or not shooting well, bringing Peyton in at the 2. And we're going to figure out the ball handling. Like, at least we're going to get some elite, whatever that is from this angle, or Christian Brown is going to be able to, he's got to figure out how to handle the ball, because we just can't have guys out there just to be out there.
Right. Yeah. I think that the thing that I get a little bit frustrated with is I think that the Nuggets offensively, so the other teams defensively, have to game plan for Jokic so much that they make adjustments, and they have to think about how they're going to attack them. They have to think about what they're going to do to create opportunities to turn the ball over, to deny the ball, that sort of thing. I think that the team, and I don't necessarily want to see the coaching staff, but has been a little bit too reliant on Jokic to do all of the game planning for them. Not to say that they aren't game planning against other teams, but I don't think that they hunt mismatches the way that other teams have to against the Nuggets sometimes. Yeah. I think that they look for those sorts of things as much. I don't think they're intentionally having Jokic screen certain guys to get a mismatch necessarily. They're just running their offense, which I like to a degree. But at the same time, when you're in a situation where you're playing teams multiple times over the course of a playoff series, I hope that that's not the plan going. I hope that the plan is, like, we need to, especially if you look at the Lakers, yes, Luka's going to be a problem offensively. Defensively, you could take.
He's going to be a problem for them defensively.
If the plan is for Christian Brown, or for Luka to be the Christian Brown cover or the MPJ cover, because he just has to stand perimeter, then you're intentionally getting the ball to MPJ, and you're putting Jokic on a screen, and you're trying to get them to switch guys, and you're trying to get Luka on Jokic, because as much as good as Luka is as an offensive player, defensively, even with another guy on him,
he's literally the worst defender in the NBA.
You like that opportunity, right, for Jokic, and then that opens the door for other guys, right? That means,
and you make him work. You put him in foul trouble, like make it's a 94 foot. Is it 94? It's a large court. Make him work on both ends. You know what I mean? And the more that you make him work on defense, hopefully that adds to a couple more misses on offense, because his legs are a little tired, or guys that ran through him when he said it's like, hey, anyone, if you see 77 D you up, you take 2 dribbles, you put your shoulder into him, and you go to the basket. You make him foul you. We could figure that out with 8U basketball. Yeah, like there's easy buckets and there's easy matchups for a team that sometimes offense is hard to come by. They make it harder on themselves, I think, than they need to, when not everyone out on the floor is a good defender all the time. Give yourself an opportunity to take care of a mismatch, and sometimes that's like demoralizing. If you're one of the 5 guys out there and they keep going at one dude on your team and he keeps giving up buckets, you're going to get a little pissed. You get a little pissed at your own teammates, then like that causes some friction, and like, I'm not going to pass to him on offense. The guys, gave up 10 points in a row, even though it's Luka Doncic, and it's like, all that stuff. And that might not even be a conscious thought, but that's a subconscious thought. And if you can, you aren't willing, or, you're willing to do whatever it takes to win a game, mind you, and give yourself cheap opportunities for buckets. Yeah. I don't know why Malone makes this, or maybe it's like, we don't want to show our cards before the playoffs.
Yeah, maybe. And I hope that's
maybe. But he hasn't really been that guy. They've been like their system guy, right? Like, instead of mixing it up a little bit. Yep, run your system. That's great. You want to be able to run your system and get good shots and feel confident in that. Yep. And you have you saw AG last, the other day. AG, that AG has always been there. He turned it off because he wants to be a good teammate. Well, why do we keep relying on Michael Porter Jr. to be a shot creator when you have a proven top 4 pick in the NBA draft, NBA All-Star, who's averaged like 28 a game in a couple of, like, showed you can go fill it up. Like, maybe, just maybe, like, let's dust off some of the the other ideas that we have. And for at minimum, it gives the guys like a fresh, like, hey, you know what? We're trying something new. Like, hey, like that's kind of fun. We're going to take advantage of some new stuff. It's not the same damn thing that we've been running for the last 8 years. And I share it. It's frustrating to see. I think Michael Malone is way too good of a coach to get in his own way like he does sometimes.
Yeah. So that begs the question, do you think, and we'll just kind of piggyback off the last one, are the Nuggets are a legitimate contender, or do you see them more as a tier below or maybe even a pretender?
I say right now, because I believe that tier below is a pretender, I think they are. I think even though I think that they can win the title.
Yeah.
I think I don't feel like I don't see it. I don't see the the trophy or bust mentality. I mean, Jokic even said it a couple days ago, right? Like how you play in the regular season is how you're going to play in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He's saying that for a reason about his own guys. And if that guy recognizes it, we sure as heck do. And so does that have to be, is that going to be the story at the end of the season? That part, I'm not gonna say it's definitive, like, yep, no, it's lost. But if we see the team that we watched even over the last week, who went 2-1, won a big win on the road, yada yada. If they keep doing what they've done, we're gonna get bounced in the first or second round.
Yeah.
So, I think that they're pretending right now. I reserve the right to change my mind.
For sure.
But for right now, that's how I'm living.
Yeah, it feels unfortunately like it's going to come down to matchup, right? Like if you get the right matchups, you might find yourself going further and have. If you get a bad matchup, then you might get bounced early, and it's just the unfortunate way that it feels right now. I'm not. We'll have to get into it a little bit deeper a different day because we're short on time. And I want to get to Broncos stuff, but I think there's a bigger conversation to kind of have about this team and the future. What this looks like if the Nuggets get bounced in the first or second round. What does this team look like moving forward? And I think we need to have that conversation. So put that on the conversations to have maybe for the following week.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think next week we'll even have a more clear picture about, maybe that changes. And I think in 1 week they could change my mind about whether or not this is the team that is ready to win the championship, which is at least cool to say, like, they're not dead enough, that like, that they won't win the championship. It's right now, I don't believe, or I wouldn't bet on it. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. All right. Well, let's transition. Let's get some Broncos talk in. No real news except for a punter was signed. So that's something.
I think it's Matt. I've heard it's pronounced Hawk. It's
I think it is
Haack. 30-year-old punter, lefty. Spent most of his time early on with Darren Rizzi, the Rizzler, in Miami for a while. Hasn't punted consistently for the last few years. Spent a little bit of time with the Giants last season. I assume he is to make sure that we have someone in the building allocated for that position. I'm not going to write his name in there. I bet that they will find themselves a quality punter before the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
I am not going to put a lot of mental fortitude into whoever is our punter, to be honest with you.
Makes sense. But notable nonetheless, we have a punter roster, so that's good. We were going to do some rankings. I think maybe we should just pass those for time to those next week. I actually kind of want, and I'm going to put you on the spot, so maybe give you a second to pull up a list. I kind of want to go over, I think at this point, after free agency has, I won't say concluded because that's not the word, but the majority of the agents would have happened.
First and quasi second wave are done. And now, for the most part, it's going to be bargain guys. I would say, like last year, it was the last week, like the last few days of March when Josh Reynolds signed. So, like, the Broncos might sign a guy like that, but you're not going to get, the big prizes. Now you're going to get, maybe a maintenance, a vet wide receiver. Cooper Kupp would have been super dope. but not a guy of that caliber. You might get, essentially Josh Reynolds 2.0 ish to kind of fill out the vet insurance in that room. Maybe they bring in a vet running back on a close to minimum deal. But yeah, their big swings are done. So yeah, essentially this is the roster that's going to go into the draft. Tinker here, tinker there. I think even no matter who they bring in now will not impact the draft. Bringing in Talanoa Hufanga takes safety off of the first round conversation for sure. So I think right now the needs that they have right now are the needs that they're going to have come April.
Yeah, I'm with you. So that said, I want to talk specifically about the running back group. We did our personal ranking probably like a month ago now. Mm-hmm. And I want to kind of come back to those and see if you've changed your opinions or if there's anyone that has kind of climbed the boards for you or has fallen down the boards for you after the combine, after just kind of a month of just kind of getting to know these prospects a little bit more, at least their tape and their highlight film. I want to kind of get your opinion on what you think the Broncos should do at running back. I'm seeing a lot of mocks where they are projecting potentially taking someone like Omarion Hampton the first round with that first pick at 20. I'm seeing somewhere it kind of just depends on who falls, but maybe you get someone in the second or third round. It seems to be, a day one or two conversation, though, less so a day three conversation. Just kind of give me your thoughts. I obviously, I don't think we want to go into the season with the running back room in the shape that it's in. We like Jaleel McLaughlin. I think at this point we know who and what he is. I don't know. I think there are a lot of fans that still have high hopes for Audric Estime. I'm not necessarily one of them, but a young guy that had some opportunity, to carve out some sort of role. I think we like Batty, but that neck injury last year kind of was probably kept him from developing anymore. And Blake Watson, another guy that but didn't seem to really win over the coaching staff. So kind of your thoughts on the room as it is, and then where you would attack, who maybe has moved your draft board or down the draft board, and who you'd like to see the Broncos take.
Yeah, I think we'll go from how the room is now. It's not, in my opinion. Last year, I thought the tight end room going into the season was one of the worst in the NFL. One of the, when Adam Troutman is probably your most dynamic playmaker. I do think that we saw, I liked what I saw from Nate Atkins. I think he had a handful of touchdowns and his ability to play fullback and versatility. I really like that. I think that helps you with your roster creation. You don't need to bring a fullback back because he can do both. I think Lucas, So that group, then going into the season, they didn't make me feel better. And so right now, that's kind of what I see from this room. I think Jaleel McLaughlin has to and always should be a change of pace guy. He just can't break enough tackles to be a guy that I could give the ball 20 times to. And I mean that even in the passing game, I think they're just it's not enough that I can bank on, because I think you have to have such a consistent impact from from the guy that's going to have the majority of the touches in the backfield. And so Audric Estime, when he ran with the ball, I felt pretty good about him. Him not being able to play, watching what you'd get from the ghost of Javonte Williams showed that the organization right now, the team doesn't trust him. So it doesn't make me feel like he's any closer. Mind you, another year, he's super young. He's like one of the 5 youngest players in the NFL last year. So with all that, some players that I'm kind of going back to. One is LaQuint Allen, my man Chris. Appreciate you, Brewitt, putting me onto it. 6 foot, a little over 6 foot, 204 pounds. Watched him quite a bit. Really good receiving skills, not split out receiving skills necessarily, but good can run multiple routes of the route tree, and I think has some solid home run hitting skill set. Kind of reminds me of Rashad White a little bit, and so a guy that could be a good a traditional running back, but also can be a guy that you can utilize in the pass game. I also feel much better about Raheem Rocket Sanders in South Carolina. He played really well in the Southeastern Conference. Concern for him, one, was fumbling in pass pro. So if he doesn't get drafted by the Broncos, I think they feel like he's a problem, not he needs more coaching with fumbling. That said, he's a bigger back, and watching him run as well as he did at the combine makes me feel like he's gotten past his injuries to be Rocket Sanders again, which is a little bit of a concern. So I think he's a guy that maybe comes in, takes some time to pick up the game, but 6 foot 217, running around 40, I think is super good. And then finally, someone that I want to pay more attention to, I think, is DJ Giddens. Again, I that's what I saw when I watched him play, and then I really have wanted to try and find other players that I like. He's improved quite a bit as a receiving option and a blocker, and has shown some good skills. But for all that being said, I am on the Marion Hampton train. I don't think Genty is going to fall. My man from Penn State, Tyler Warren's not going to fall. So it's a little bit of, I'm okay at taking a running back in the first round. I know a lot of people would scoff at that, myself included, from previous renditions. But you get a guy for 5 years. You get 4 years plus the 5th year option, 2 years of 2 additional years that you can use the franchise tag for. So essentially, his entire productive years. Oh gosh, that's so slave ownership talking. Get him for his good productive years, and then put him out to pasture. Jesus. But he's 22. You get him for 7 years till he hits 29. Or 28, 29, and you feel pretty good about that. He does everything that you need him to do. Power, good receiving threat, shown willingness to block, uses his weight well. He's 220 pounds. So essentially it's like, if you want a guy that you're not going to have to take off the field, that in my opinion is reachable. You don't have to give up assets. I'd be shocked if 2 running backs went before 20. And if so, this is the class for it to happen. There's some good running backs round 2, round 3 that they'll be able to get that I think have starter instant day one starter capabilities. But I think if that is the one position right now where if they were to suit up and line up today, that's the one, when you do the position, put the team in and who has the edge of quarterback and who has the edge of that, for sure is the one that's nope, we'll never win that one. Won't do it. Yeah. And I don't want that. And last year, I think that cost us some games. We couldn't pick up 3rd and 1. You don't have a viable threat on play action because Javonte's only going to get 2 yards, if any. And so having a guy that can keep you ahead of the chains, I think, is a priority. And it has to be a guy that can catch the ball, or Sean Payton won't do it. And so he, to me, is the kind of perfect storm. So dream scenario now is Amarian Hampton, because I'm being realistic. Genty would be great, but I like Amarian Hampton, and I don't know, it's a slam dunk, in my opinion, about who will be better in the NFL. And so I like the other guys. I think still looking at them, I would even take another one in the 4th round, even if you take Amarian Hampton, just because of you need it. And let's get some more dynamic players, and let's fix a room that sucked and make it be I'd rather have too many good running backs than not enough. So that's my take. Where do you agree, disagree? And then take us home.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be quick because we got to wrap up here, though. I think there are many guys that I don't like early on in the draft.
See, that's how I was feeling. I was like, I have to find problems with guys, and I was like, I kind of like a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think people don't like Cam Scatabo. I kind of actually like him. I didn't think I would coming into the draft process. I'm like, we've seen this kind of guy before, big, physical, but like how actually skilled is he? I think after watching a little bit more, he's a better player than I kind of gave him credit for. And so I would be okay with if they decided to go that route. I would feel okay about it. Of course, my Ohio State guys I'm still high on. I might be, man, I fluctuate back and forth between which I like more, being Judkins or Henderson. And it's just like,
same, man. It's like weekly. I'm like, no, I'm going to take Judkins this week. I
mean, I feel like 2 weeks ago, I was like all Judkins. And now this week, I'm like Travion. And I think I've paid more attention to Travion's pass protection and how he chips. And he's really active as a blocker, and he's a really effective blocker, really, too. And so it's just like, man, I kind of go back and forth. I think the only guy I probably wouldn't be real excited about is Dylan Sampson. There's something about him that just doesn't resonate with me.
He looks smaller. He looks smaller than
small,
yeah. And that worries if bell cow, like we gotta, I need 3rd and 1. Like I need a running back that I know on 3rd and 1 we're getting and I don't know. He would be a nice other also back, but if that's your plan, I agree with you. That one, I'm starting to walk him back a little bit.
Yeah, me too. One guy that I'm intrigued by, and I think he's more of a boomer bust guy that you would want to maybe get on day 3. Is Jaden Blue, running back out of Texas. I just think athletically he gives you. There's a profile there that is special. Just kind of the explosiveness mixed with that long speed is just, it's hard to find. I think he's pretty unseasoned compared to some of these backs. I mean, you look at like Devin Neal, who was a senior coming out that had like over 1,500 snaps or over 1,500 snaps. I mean, Jaden Blue, I think, had around 600. So like you definitely want to look at the wear and tear on some of these guys too. For me, that like maybe you just get him a few more reps and he's a more of a top end talent that you could look at. But really, I think that I would like them to take 2 guys. I would like them to take a guy early, whether that be first or second round. And then I'd like to take day 3, maybe take a chance on a guy towards the end of the draft by Shaltuten, something like that, who was explosive during the combine, had some issues with ball security, that sort of thing. And Ollie Gordon, who was amazing and then fell off a cliff, and maybe he kind of returned that. He ran a little bit low at the combine, but he's also 6'2", 225. So it's one of the things.
It was like 4.5 slow. It wasn't like 4.
Yeah, it wasn't like absurdly slow, but you wanted them to kind of run a little bit faster if you were looking.
Yeah, I mean, you're hoping to get a guy that's a home run pick, especially in round 1 or round 2. Like getting a plugger or a plotter, like using a top 50 pick on that profile, not ideal.
Right. So I would like to look at a few guys. There's not a ton of guys I hate in this class, and so I'm interested to see where they go. I think we'll jump into this a little bit more and maybe have some additional. I have 1 or 2 guys that maybe our new draft crushes at the running back position as well. We'll get.
Let's hit it next week. Let's go a little bit more of in depth. I got a guest in mind that I might bring on, and so let's save all those good nuggets for then. Why don't you see us out, sir?
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here today. We got to run, unfortunately, but we have plenty of sports talk up. Playoffs coming up in the next couple of weeks here, next month or so, and some big opportunities for the Nuggets going into the playoffs to lock up some seeds. So, thank you for being with us today. We appreciate you. Be safe, be kind to one another, and if you need a sports prescription, ask a doctor.
You know it.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle. Wait a minute,